Hi, welcome to Let's Talk Centerville. I'm Maureen Russell Hodson, and my guest today is Greg Horn, Centerville City Manager, who is going to be retiring on July 5th after 25 years of service to the city of Centerville. During the next 30 minutes, we're going to try to review those 25 years of service. And Greg, it's so good to have you here.
Nice to be here, Maureen.
Hard to get you here.
I haven't been here too many times.
So we're going to try to review your beginnings from 1992 when you were hired as the Centerville City Manager through today, and throw in a few other stories as well. But let's start at the beginning. You were a city manager at the age of 23, right?
24.
24, youngest city manager in the state of Missouri.
That's correct.
How did you decide a career as a city manager?
There was a city council foolish enough to hire me at that age, I guess. I grew up in Worcester, Ohio, which actually was a strong mayor form of government, which is a little ironic. And went to Bowling Green State University, was a political science major, and was all prepared to go to law school at the end of my senior year. And then I decided during my senior year I had an internship with the city of Toledo, and I got very interested in local government. And so I decided at the urging of one of my professors to apply for some graduate schools in MPA programs, Masters in Public Administration. And so that summer I received a late notice from the University of Missouri that they were extending me a research assistantship, which would pay for graduate school. And my fiance at that time, who is my wife today, we had decided we weren't going to get married probably for a couple more years. So I was going to law school, she was going to Cincinnati to teach. We just decided to have a quick change in plans, got married 3 weeks later, grabbed a U-Haul trailer, went to Columbia, Missouri, and I was in graduate school there for 2 years. Then I came back between the first and second year to the city of Worcester and did an internship. And that was really kind of a clincher for me. I just decided local government was where I wanted to be. It was my second year in graduate school. It was, I think, maybe in early April, late March. We were starting to think about job opportunities and getting resumes polished up for spring graduation. And my advisor came to see me and said there was a little town called Hermann, Missouri, which was about halfway from the University of Missouri in Columbia, where we were living, in St. Louis. And he said they were hiring their first city manager, and they had contacted the university to see if anyone might be interested. I think thinking that they probably would get someone either fairly young or maybe get someone close to retirement age. I was foolish enough to believe that perhaps they would hire me. I went and interviewed a couple of times, and lo and behold was hired as the first city manager for Hermann, Missouri at the ripe old age of 24. And they let me drive back and forth for about a month until I finished up graduate school.
And you were there for how long?
Was there for 2 years, yes. And great little community, county seat, not very large, maybe 3,000 people. But it had its own sewer system, it had its own water system, it had its own electric system, it had a natural gas system that actually sold natural gas to a couple of neighboring communities, had a small airport, had its own sanitary landfill, had its own police department.
Wow, so you got great experience there.
It was a microcosm in local government, all on a small scale, but an opportunity to really get exposed to a number of facets of local government.
And then you ended up coming back to Ohio.
Then we came back to Ohio. We were thinking about starting a family and didn't want to spend necessarily all of our off time back and forth and vacations driving back and forth. So I was approached in really after being in Hermann for 2 years, I was approached by a headhunter for a job up in northeastern Ohio, a small town called Minerva, maybe about 5,000 residents. And we came back, I interviewed for that, became the first city manager in Minerva. And then I was the youngest city manager in Ohio at the ripe age of 26. And we were in Minerva about 5.5 years.
And then you went to Tip City, right?
And then I went to Tip City, and they had a council manager form of government for some time, so that was a little different. I wasn't the first. We moved to Tip City in 1984. I was the city manager in Tip City for about 7.5 years. A different setting. We were on the interstate. We had a lot of development going on. We had a lot of Japanese development at that time taking place in the northern part of the Miami Valley, a lot of industrial development. So again, we were there about 7.5 years, and that's when I received a call one day from
That's what I was going to ask you.
Mayor
Right.
Shirley Hines.
Right. So Centerville was involved in just starting a project that would become the golf club at Yankee Trace.
Correct.
But you really were in the very beginning.
Yes. It was, Centerville had been working on acquiring the land, putting together the parcels. They had hired an architect, Gene Bates, the golf course architect, And he had a lot of the work completed as far as the layout of most of the course. And the city manager who was here at that time, Daryl Kenning, a great individual who unfortunately just recently passed away, Daryl knew that it was a project that was going to take many years. And I think it was just something personally that he felt was probably better suited for someone else. And so he was stepping down after 17 years as the city manager in Centerville. And they were looking for someone to hit the ground running. And that's when Shirley Heinz called me, and I interviewed, and then ended up, fortunately, in July of '92, I was hired and started as the city manager for Centerville.
And still a young guy.
I was pretty young at that age, yes. I'm trying to think what it would have been, maybe 37, something like that.
Yeah, to jump in and have such a huge project, which, as we've said, you've had a lot of experience, but really
Right.
never any experience in developing a golf course.
No, I'd been involved in developing parks and water towers and industrial parks and police stations and a number of projects, but not a golf course. A very interesting project. When I came on board in July of '92, Centerville was actually embroiled in in litigation with Washington Township, which was trying to oppose the annexation of the property. It had been to the Common Pleas Court, and Centerville had lost. It had been to the Appeals Court, and Centerville had lost that case. So there was a lot riding in the summer of '92 on whether that 400-plus acre development would actually be in the city of Centerville, which obviously Centerville was proposing to develop. Fortunately, just a few months after I came on board, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled unanimously in favor of the city, finalizing the annexation. We made a few changes to the development of the course later that summer. Then we went out to bid and hired Irwin Construction out of Louisville, Kentucky in the fall of '92, and then spent the next 2 years working with putting the staff together and working with the professionals to develop Yankee Trace.
And I think people probably forget when all of that was going on 20 some odd years ago, but Yankee Trace and that development has really been a game changer in that area.
Yeah, it's been a tremendous project. I mean, it's, looking back and talking with Shirley Heinz and the elected officials at that time when I first came on board, they knew the community was developing rapidly. There was going to be really kind of a window of opportunity to put together that type of acreage, because after a while it would be split up and developed by others, and so you wouldn't be able to assemble as many acres as you needed for a golf development. So again, at that time it was about 450 acres of land. So they knew they had a window of opportunity. They also knew that it was something that could bring in a different type of recreation that the city and township really did not have to offer. And I think they also thought it was an opportunity to set aside green space for generations to come. And really, I think all of those goals have been reached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a gem it is. And talking about other projects with the city, so you're working on that, but then we decide that we need a new police building.
Right.
Which was paid for before it was even built, right?
Yeah,
which is unusual.
The police department here had, in some respects, maybe kind of assumed a second fiddle position. If you go back to the early '90s, Centerville, with the help of Tom Stoles and his vision, developed Stubbs Park. And then the Benham's Grove property became available in the early '90s, and so that was actually opening up when I came in '92. So they had done a couple of large projects that really had consumed a lot of time and a lot of resources. And then they embarked on Yankee Trace. Again, a lot of additional staff time and a lot of financial resources. And so the police department, which was woefully inadequate, and I think everyone accepted and knew that, had kind of been pushed to the back burner. So that was something that we were able to get started. With Chief Lickard early on, we went to some national seminars on building a new police facility. And then Chief Lickard left. Chief Walker came on in '96, and he was very instrumental in that project and really helped grab the bull by the horns. And so the police station was, again, a multi-year project. We were fortunate that council set aside the funds each year, and so it was paid for when it opened in 2001. And really looks like a brand new facility today, and continues to service our community and our outstanding police department, I think, very well.
And one unique thing about the police department is that there is a art exhibit. So there's exhibit space there that changes every month, and I don't think you'd find that in too many police departments.
No, we toured a lot of police departments around Ohio and other states, and we really wanted something that would meet the institutional needs, the administrative needs, the incarceration needs in terms of the jail area, but we also wanted a facility that was welcoming and was open to the community and would truly have a community policing feel. And so that's one of the reasons for the large lobby there, the training room that also doubles as a meeting room for our community. And then we've been able to take that and incorporate the museum into that area, which I think has been just well received by the community.
And then as our city continues to grow, the needs obviously grew as well, and then we needed to have a new public works facility.
Public works facility was in pretty tough shape.
Yeah.
It was a former framing production facility for a housing contractor. Was a kind of a series of older buildings down on South Suburban Drive, which is just east of Centerville High School off of Franklin Street. Really had seen its better days, and that's where we stored literally a few $1 million worth of equipment, which was a scary thought. The building in many regards would have been a fire trap, quite honestly. There was virtually no floor drainage. The lighting was totally inadequate. We had to make sure every door was open when equipment was fired up because we didn't have any ventilation systems to turn over the airflow. So it had a lot of issues. And once the police station was done and funded in 2001, then we embarked upon a public works center. That project took several years. Again, we toured public works facilities everywhere we could find one, and ended up pursuing kind of a design-build philosophy. Danis ended up being the contractor. And I think we really created a public works facility with mechanical bays and all the appurtenances that'll serve Centerville for, I think, for many years to come.
So under your leadership, we've got a new police building, we've got a new public works center, we've upgraded Benham's Grove because, as you said, it
Right.
first started, and we've made changes there. And then also throughout the community, so downtown looks quite a bit different as well.
We had a lot of changes in downtown. Prior to the recession, there was a period of time in around the early 2000s when a couple of the other buildings were in kind of forlorn condition, not really historical buildings. The old Capital One building, which was essentially a concrete block structure next to Town Hall. We had a doctor's office that was probably a 1960s construction on the corner. And we worked very closely with some interested parties. Panera had shown an interest, Grader's, City Barbecue, and we're able to spur some new development in that area. I think kind of give it a little bit of a rebirth. And also really help attack a parking problem that we'd had there for a number of years in the area by Town Hall. The backs of those various businesses on East Franklin Street were really just kind of a menagerie of overhead lines and trash dumpsters and different elevations, different size parking lots. And so we were either able to acquire title or acquire easements over all of that property and put together more of a comprehensive parking plan for that whole area. We were able to get the Washington Township trustees to help contribute financially because it also serves Town Hall. And so I think that's been a good catalyst over the years for some continued growth and redevelopment in the Architectural Preservation District.
And we do want to remind people about the Friday food trucks that the Heart of Centerville is offering as well. So things continue
Right.
to blossom downtown
Right. Yep.
as
Very
well.
active group down there.
And then we also moved to Kroger Marketplace. The old Kroger,
Right.
still there, but
Right.
wow.
Yes, that was a project that took several years to put together. Quite frankly, we were concerned that Kroger might be leaving and they might be going south, maybe to Lytle Five Points or down towards Social Row Road, and we really wanted to keep Kroger as that anchor in our community. And so we were fortunate to be able to put that together. Our staff put a lot of time into that project, our planning, our engineers, just a lot of time to make that happen. And again, I think that will be a catalyst for development in that area. With the recession, it's been a little slower, obviously, than we would have predicted, but we've had some very strong interest just in the last several weeks on a potential reuse for the Kroger facility. So we're guardedly optimistic right now that you're going to see some new ownership and some new development in that area as well.
Well, and then another game changer is Miami Valley Hospital South coming in. Again, that was a long project.
Right. Miami Valley Hospital South, when I came to Centerville, was a field. And we would have a meeting with the Premier Health Network folks about every year or two, just to see what was on the radar. I can't tell you how many times we were approached by large discount retailers that were interested in acquiring that site. And Miami Valley Hospital kept telling us no, they were not going to sell out. And they were offered some very attractive amounts of dollars for that site. But they told us that they had a long-term vision of that being a hospital. They were committed to that. It took several years for that to happen. I think around 2007 that work was underway. But it's been a tremendous facility. Our staff worked very closely with them on helping to develop the look and the feel of that campus, and they have certainly stepped up with a very quality-looking medical campus.
And then in that same area, cornerstone of Centerville, which is still developing.
Right. Cornerstone of Centerville, as everyone knows, has been an interesting project. That started, I think, around 2006 when we were approached with a proposal by the ownership group that were representing the Dilly family that they wanted to annex that property, about 250 acres, about 175 acres north of 675 and about 75 acres south of 675. It was a 100% owner annexation. Under Ohio law, that's supposed to be an easy administrative function. Unfortunately, the Sugar Creek Township trustees took that very personally. They challenged us legally. We had a couple of year delay. The annexation was finally approved. The developer wanted us to use tax increment financing as a financing tool to help with a lot of the roadway and public infrastructure improvements. Council passed an ordinance for tax increment financing. The township opposed that. That went all the way through the court system over several years until the Ohio Supreme Court finally unanimously ruled in favor of the city. So that project got a little bit of a slow start. But again, I think it's really started to develop some momentum in the last couple of years. And the northern part now is probably about 60% built out.
So we've got these big projects happening, but also your attention to detail is very well known throughout our staff. You don't miss anything, but
yes,
you really focus.
Unfortunately, I'm sure.
well, it makes all of us raise our game also.
Right.
But even the entryways into the city, I mean, that is something that you really
Right.
focus attention on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a tremendous community and people appreciate what we have. And I think part of it is making sure that we give a warm welcome, as we're known as a
Right.
warm and cheerful community, but we give a warm welcome to people visiting our community. What's our first impression? What is our front door? And whether it's the Architectural Preservation District with some of those improvements, whether it's the Wilmington Pike Corridor with the improvements that we've done there. The other issue, obviously, we worked on very diligently was the entryway off of 675 to Main Street or State Route 48. We felt that it was necessary to kind of pick up our game. We were able to get an enhancement grant from the Ohio Department of Transportation to improve the overpass, to add some stone monumentation, which fits well with Centerville's early limestone theme. We were able to add the decorative lighting up and down 48. We've been able to add the boulevards. And again, I think it becomes a very attractive, welcoming community. The other thing I felt proud about and our city council was willing to support, we used to have about 3 small ranch homes at the southeast corner of Alex Bell and Main Street. And those homes were in pretty deplorable condition. It was one of those things where we had property maintenance violations often. And we were able to work through a third-party realtor, actually acquire those properties. One of them burned before we acquired them. 2 of them were raised. And we've created a little green area, a little pocket park area, which I think gives a much nicer pop visually for people coming into Centerville for the first time.
Come in and see those beautiful daylilies, which is
Yes.
the official flower of Centerville.
Yeah.
And you'd mentioned warm and cheerful, which is our unofficial motto, but
Right.
also progress and stability
Right.
is the city's motto. And how
Right.
have you been able to manage both of those over the last 25 years?
Well, I always kiddingly say this, but I believe it. I think the progress is judged by others. I think our staff, our city council, our mayors have all been very oriented toward creating a high-quality community, a very premier community, and continuing to raise the bar for Centerville. And I believe that that's happened, and hopefully others would share that. From a stability standpoint, we've had a tremendous amount of stability. Our employees, people like yourself, I can't say how many employees really, when you think about it, have been in Centerville 30, 35 years.
Their whole careers.
We just had a police officer, Detective Osterfeld, who just retired this week, 36 years.
Right.
Our former city clerk, Marilyn McLaughlin, I think had 44 years. So I think Centerville has a history of being able really to attract quality individuals, keep them for extended periods of time. Council has been the same. We go back to people like J.V. Stone, I believe served about 30 years on city council. Jim Singer, I think, was, when he went off council, was the longest running continuous official with maybe, 35 years of service to Centerville. Mayors that have served, 8, 12-year terms. So yeah, I think we've been blessed with a lot of stability.
So we've talked about the entry improvements, but also we've done a lot of roadway improvements.
Yes, we have. One of the things I thought was really inviting about Centerville when I arrived was, in the not too distant past, they had completed major improvements on Clio Road. And this was the area that was from Franklin Street north to Bigger. And they had boulevarded it. And I just thought that it really stood out in the community and gave a very attractive feel. And we had several meetings with staff, several meetings with city council, and they had agreed to continue that approach. And so as we've developed and improved streets over the years, if you think of South Main Street, years ago we had open ditches from Spring Valley South. That's all been boulevarded now and landscaped, and the ornamental lights have been added. We did the same thing as we worked our way up Main Street. We did that actually north of 675 by adding the boulevards when that section of roadway by the Bethany Village was improved. We added the boulevards at the western entry of the community on Franklin Street as you approach from Washington Township, again to give it a more inviting feel. As Alex Bell was improved and widened east of Loop Road, we utilized boulevards. We did the same thing on the final phase of Clio from Bigger out to Wilmington Pike, and we've been able to carry that same theme forward with our Wilmington Pike improvements and our feed wire improvements. So I think with the lighting and the boulevards and the landscaping, and our staff does a tremendous job in terms of maintaining all those areas, that we've really been able to give Centerville kind of a special look that maybe a lot of other communities just really don't display.
Yeah, I think it's all these little touches that all work together that when you enter our community, you know you're in a different community because it is so special and unique.
It is, and I think it's reflected by the people that live here in terms of how they maintain their properties. Sure, like any community, we have a few folks that we have to nudge a little bit, and that we have to try to encourage them to pick up the pace. But generally, the residents of Centerville, and I think this has been true for many decades, take a lot of pride in their properties, take a lot of pride in how they maintain them, and quite frankly, they expect quality services,
right,
but they also appreciate quality services. And I think maybe even more importantly for someone in local government like myself is that they're willing to pay for quality services. So historically in our community, whether it's the parks, whether it's a library, whether it's the schools, or whether it's that very rare occasion that Centerville actually asks for more tax dollars, I think the public has been very responsive. And I think it's really been a partnership between entities that want to provide top quality service, do want to pay attention to detail, do want to create a really extra level in terms of quality of life, and citizens that appreciate that, support it, and are willing to stand by it.
Well, let's talk about some of the folks here because it's a great community. We've talked about how special it is to live here. I think we all know the warm and cheerful feeling that we all get. But Centerville is a wonderful place.
It is. I mean, you think of things like our July 4th concerts. It's a really nostalgic kind of Pollyanna atmosphere. The Americana Festival, a tremendous day. It's noted as one of the largest gatherings of its kind in the state. Having the high school in the community, having the athletics going on in the community, the volunteerism in the community, as you've noted. I mean, we have over 200 volunteers. You obviously know that being our volunteer coordinator. They help us at Yankee Trace, they help us at the municipal building, the police department, Public Works, Benham's Grove. They get involved in every aspect of the daily operations of our community. And then the service organizations in our community. And whether it's the Kiwanis or the Rotary or the Lions, I mean, the Optimists, we're just really blessed to have that kind of community support.
Everybody wants to help make our community better. And
they do,
work,
and I think the results bear that out.
It's really, as we always say, it's a great place to be, it's a great place to work. Right. Under your leadership, as you look at your staff, how do you kind of sum up Centerville to somebody else that you're going to be handing over the reins to here in the next couple months?
Well, I would tell them they're going to inherit a tremendous staff. We've been very fortunate over the years. We've had a number, as you know, of really quality people that have spent their careers here and retired and going on. And I think we've been fortunate to be able to kind of refill the pipeline or to reload, so to speak. So for every really high-quality person that we've lost to generally retirement, I think we've been able to bring in some really bright young talent. And so I think the future is bright for the community. I think we've got an outstanding staff. I couldn't have asked for more support during my tenure. And I'm confident that those folks will stay here. They will work here, live here, be dedicated and committed to this community for decades to come. So with the tax increase, and we certainly don't like to talk much about that, but the first time in 35 years, our elected representatives decided to put it on the ballot last fall, and we got a very strong reaction from the community and in passing that. And I think that's going to put the city in a position now where, quite frankly, we've battled an 8 to 9 year recession, and we watched every single nickel and penny. And I'm confident that the City Council will continue to use those dollars wisely in the future. But again, there will be dollars here because of Issue 3 to be able to continue to improve our roads and improve our public spaces and make sure that Centerville continues to be the premier community that it's been for so long.
When you look back over your 25 years here, Greg, what really stands out for you?
Probably from a bricks and mortar standpoint, it probably would be the Yankee Trace development. That involves so many years. I mean, we are still finishing up the final phase of a project that really has been going on now for 26, 27 years. So 900 homes, $300 million of housing, a staff of 125 just at Yankee Trace alone. The years we had the Dayton Open, which were just tremendous years, and all the volunteer support we had. All the events we've held at Yankee Trace over the years. So a lot of tremendous memories from that project. I think the other thing that really stands out to me has been the relationship with so many quality people. I look back at the City Council that hired me, just some tremendous people that I will always remember. J.B. Stone, who's no longer with us. Marilyn McLaughlin, as we mentioned, our city clerk. Jim Singer, longtime council member, who has also unfortunately passed away. Brooks Compton and Mark Kingseed, and Brooks now is the mayor, and Sally Beals. Sally, I always have to give special credit because Sally had an uncle that was a strong member of the Chamber of Commerce in Tip City, and when the position became available, I'd heard that he had actually encouraged her to put me on the list for interviews, that they had a manager in Tip City that he thought the City Council should perhaps talk to. So I have to give Sally her due. Shirley Heinz, my first mayor here, a lot of great memories of Shirley, who unfortunately is also gone. But just a tremendous City Council, strong mayors over the years, people that were just totally committed to the community, council members that really were here for the right reason. I could count on one hand, probably in 25 years, what I would consider to be serious disagreements with any member of council. And after those disagreements were resolved, we all moved forward for the betterment of the community. And as I mentioned before, the staff, just an outstanding, tremendous staff. Quality, dedicated, and so many new folks that have come on in the last few years, bright and energetic, and I think have tremendous futures. The volunteers in our community, you couldn't ask for a better group. You've obviously led that organization outstandingly over the years. They help in so many ways. And again, just the general support in the community, the working relationships. So Centerville really is a special place. I think it has a tremendous future, and I'm glad that I played a part.
Well, Greg, on behalf of the city and our citizens, we appreciate your guidance. And as you look around the city, you can't help but see your fingerprints on a lot of these projects. So we appreciate that. We wish you all the best. It's been a true pleasure working with you, and we wish you nothing but happiness.
Well, thank you, Maureen. Appreciate that very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.